Hi y'all, it's Tamara from Bells of the North Homestead. So recently somebody on one of the other YouTube channels, Prepper Dog, I remarked on his channel about how I made salmon on top of the wood stove. And yes, this is something we do like all winter long. I never thought to share it with anybody, but he said, oh, share it. He wants to see it on my website, or he wants to see it on my YouTube. And so I was like, okay, well, guess what? We are gonna have salmon tonight, and excuse me, we're gonna have salmon, and we're gonna have beets that we got from the farm down the road from us this past summer. Our beets didn't do so great, and so yeah, we're gonna have some beets, we're gonna have some rice. Now the rice I'm not gonna cook on top of the wood stove because the rice we're all much more particular about. We prefer rice in a steamer or a rice cooker, but salmon I have found does remarkably well on the wood stove. So I'm sure you can see behind me, I actually have on the wood stove already a cast iron pan. Now, if you're going to start cooking on the wood stove, you want to make sure that you start including some cast iron in your utensils or in your cookery for cooking on a wood stove. This really works well. You know, I don't have a pellet stove. I've never used a pellet stove, so I don't know if the top is as hot on a pellet stove as it is on a wood stove. Fireplace, you'd have to actually cook in the fire in order to get the same effect. But you can tell even our fan is going like crazy right now. So the wood stove is really nice and warm. Got a big piece of birch in there we just grabbed inside. So tonight we're just gonna be doing some beets, some roasted beets in a pan. I typically find either cast iron works really well. I have a metal pan that I'm using for the beets that heats up relatively well. Whatever you do, you want to use metal. Glass, I typically keep far away from the wood stove. You could use it, but it's much more dangerous. You might, if you know, temperature ranges and everything might shatter. But yeah, so I typically, I'll keep it down here on the wood stove. And what I'm going to do is, and I'll show you exactly what I'm going to do today. I'm going to be taking my salmon that I've been marinating in a very simple marinade of some sake, some shoyu or soy sauce, mirin, and goodness, what else? I think that was about it. I think that's all I did in this marinade. It's a very simple marinade. And then the beets I'm going to do with a little tiny bit of sesame oil and ponzu, and just with some plain old rice. But you know, this is a really easy meal. Now, I will admit, up here in Alaska, salmon is a normal thing for us. We just went fishing down in Valdez this past summer, just like we do every year. And we managed to walk away with 17 silvers, and I pulled one king. It was a lovely fish. We have a little tiny bit left of it, but we ate that baby up quick. So salmon for us is a normal thing, but I know down in the lower 48, you guys, yeah. But you know, the key point here is that how to cook when you have no power. Now today I have plenty of power, but just because I don't have any power, or just because I have power, is not an excuse to pretend like, hey, you know what, I don't have power. And guess what? There's actually a win to this, is I don't pay for the electricity when I'm cooking on the wood stove. Now I did pay for the gas to cut the firewood. We cut most of our own firewood ourselves. We did get some of it from other numerous sources that was already pre-cut or whatever. We had to split it though. The splitter takes electricity too. So yes, so you can argue that, but ultimately it's still, we're cooking our meal using a heat source that we already have in the house. And today it's like, it started out in the negative teens, and I think by tonight it's supposed to be like negative 20 something. So our poor chickens, they're not happy. In fact, they laid us one egg today. We were getting like 6 or 7 a day. So anyways, so I wanted to show you how, this is how I do it. So you know what, I'm gonna quickly zoom right through this. Now, watching fish cook is just about as fun as watching honey drip, right? So you know what, honestly, I probably won't do that. It won't really be showing too much, other than I'll show you how I close up my cast iron pan. I don't have a top that fits this exact cast iron pan, but I will go ahead and I'll use one of my other metal ones, and you can see just how how it works. It's really simple. salmon, fish, you know, it's pretty easy to cook on top of a wood stove like this. And that wood stove is pretty darn hot. I put that cast iron pan on the wood stove about, I think it was about like 20 minutes ago. So it should be really nice and hot now, to the point where if I'm going to touch it, I'm going to bring down a pair of gloves down here, you know, down a pair of oven gloves. So, all right, so let me know if you have any questions, and let me proceed. Let me get some dinner started so we can get cooking. We got, what time is it? It's 4:30, so I want to hurry up and get dinner started, so that way it's done by 5:30, 6 o'clock. Okay, so I just put my salmon on the pan. As you notice, I put it skin down. Salmon is best to have skin down first. Cooking it this way on top of the wood stove is not going to get that nice crispy skin that I love, but you know what? It still does a pretty good job. So it ultimately makes the salmon really, really tender when cooking it like this. So I'm going to take one of my nice big metal pans, or metal tops. I have to be really careful not to hit this fan that's going really fast. And then, meanwhile, I have my beets, which I can still cut. I can still take the top off. Right, I have a pair of tongs in my hand, and it's really hard to do this with a pair of tongs. Pair of tongs in my hand. There you go. I have the beets. Those ones were golden and normal beets. So, so yeah, at this point now, I'm going to let everything heat up. In probably about 15-20 minutes, I'll come back down and I'll take a look at that salmon. You know, honestly, I'm the type of cook that I cook by smell. I can tell when my meat, anything really, is cooking. My bread, my cake, my meat, anything. I can usually tell just by the smell of it that I'm getting close. So yeah, like I said, I'll probably come down 15-20 minutes, come take a look at it, see do I need to flip the salmon, and we'll go from there. Okay, y'all, so it's been like 15-20 minutes, and let's take a look and see what's going on. I looked at it just for one moment, and I can see that the fish, well, it cooks a little faster than I intended, because that's when you can see all the white on there. But even still, it's pretty much done. I'm going to flip it off camera, because it would be a little hard for me to flip this while holding the camera and the top. So I don't...
I'll do it.
Help. My husband's going to help without getting mess everywhere. There you go. So we're going to let it cook just like that for just a little tiny bit longer, but it's pretty much done. I can see it's already really nice and flaky. You know, I hate to say it, but I'm one of those type of people that I even love the skin, especially when it's really crispy. This, unfortunately, is not very crispy. I am actually cheating. I never did bring a oven mitt down. Instead, I put a sweater on, and the sweater worked. Look at this, multitasking massively here, guys. All right, and the beets are pretty much done, so I'm gonna bring this upstairs, because all I needed to do with the beets were already cooked. All I have to do is just bring them upstairs, and my dinner is almost ready. And the only thing that we used for electricity was the rice cooker. And probably if I really, really had to, and I had no power, I could probably use a generator for that. Ain't that cool? Yep.